Good evening. I would like to call to order the November 14th, 2023 meeting of the Norwalk Common Council. The time is 7:31. If you'll please stand and join me in pledging allegiance to our nation's flag. And if you would remain standing after the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. If you please remain standing for a moment of silence. This past couple of weeks, we've lost three employees of either the Norwalk Public School System or the Norwalk City. One is Luca Fiola, who was a firefighter for nearly 20 years. Don Fabarik, who was a member of the Norwalk Library for 36 years. And Jeff Smith, who was the band director for Norwalk High School for many years as well. So if you'll please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Clerk, if you please call the roll.
Mr. Burnett,
Present.
Mr. Camacho,
I'm here.
Mr. Goldstein,
Here.
Ms. Najolski Eichner,
Present.
Ms. Smith, Ms. Ayers, present, Mr. Ubelman, Ms. Revoluce, present, Ms. Young,
Here.
Mr. Kites, Ms. McMurr,
Present.
Ms. Alterman, Mr. Meek,
Here.
Ms. Shanahan,
Here.
Mr. Frere. Here. 11, we have a quorum.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is the acceptance of the minutes. Regular meeting of October 24th, 2023. Do I have a motion? Ms. Shanahan, are there any corrections, deletions, or omissions? Seeing none, all in favor of the minutes as submitted. The motion carries. Next is the acceptance of the minutes of the special meeting of November 2nd, 2023. Do I have a motion? Ms. McMurray. Are there any corrections, deletions, or omissions?
Here.
Ms. Najolski Eichner.
Thank you. I was listed as in attendance, but I was not in attendance. That needs to be corrected. Thank you.
Any further corrections? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Abstention.
Yes.
Ms. Shanahan abstains.
And Mayor, I'm also an absent.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Najolski Eichner as well.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is public participation. If anybody's wishing to address the council, there's a sign-up sheet. Please know that you have 3 minutes to speak, and you have to speak about an item that is currently on this evening's agenda. So, Ms. Dixon?
Betty Ball.
Thank you. My name is Betty Ball, and I've lived in Norwalk for 35 years. I'm here to show my support for the proposed ban on gas-powered leaf blowers. As both a resident and co-founder of Skip the Plastic Norwalk, a grassroots group devoted to environmental protections. This ordinance will protect the health and well-being of frontline landscape workers and of all Norwalk residents, as well as wildlife, by reducing the amount of fossil fuel and greenhouse gases that are exacerbating climate change. It's no coincidence that 2023 is virtually certain to be the hottest year on record. By now, research has proven that gas-powered leaf blowers are a significant source of environmental pollution. Harmful effects include carbon emissions, the dispersion of dust particulates, and noise pollution. Using a gas-powered leaf blower for 1 hour is the equivalent of dumping 5 pounds of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere or generating the same smog-forming emissions as driving a car for 1,100 miles. That's like driving from Norwalk to Atlanta. Now imagine being a frontline worker whose health is compromised by using gas-powered leaf blowers. Research also shows that noise pollution generated by leaf blowers has been linked to health issues, including hearing loss and reduced cognitive performance. As a coastal community, Norwalk has a responsibility to preserve and protect its natural ecosystems. By passing this ordinance, we not only reduce our carbon footprint and make health a priority for workers and residents alike, but we also create a cleaner, safer, and more sustainable environment for every living thing. When the ordinance passes, STPN will use its resources to support a smooth transition until its full implementation in 2027 via messaging and education. Building on other successful initiatives, the ban on gas-powered leaf blowers will further polish Norwalk's reputation as an environmentally conscious city. Protecting future generations from pollution, whether it's plastic bags and styrofoam or gas-powered leaf blowers, makes our city attractive to individuals and families alike. Fostering a cleaner environment, preserving the tranquility of every neighborhood, and prioritizing our health are reasons to love where we live. Together, we can continue to build a greener, cleaner, and more sustainable community. On behalf of STPN and its members, I urge the council to support this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marty Dempsey.
Thank you for having me speak. I'm gonna go talk to you, Mr. Mayor, that you have been at the Zoom meeting and the ordinance meeting, which a lot of misleading things have been said, but this ordinance is not ready to be voted on or approved. There's so many questions that are still outstanding. I can't argue with some of the, the things this lady just said. But what I can tell you is, they're worried about hearing. I get that. But what about the spine in your back from a 15, maybe 15 pounds more of weight from batteries and all that? The spine is not as important as the hearing. So there's a lot of issues with this, and it is not ready. The people who are here talk about landscaping, we're all going to talk about the same thing. The technology is not where it needs to be yet. Everybody knows that. And to do a pump the brake ordinance where let's just do it and then, we'll decide later. That's not fair to us. We're trying to run a business. We have everything going against us between pesticide. Nobody wants pesticide, but they want green grass. Nobody wants this, but they want their leaves and lawns blown. So, insurance for slip and falls, all this stuff is very difficult to do business in and around Fairfield County. So not saying that, down the road, we make changes with equipment. There's a better equipment a lot of times. So over 35 years I've been doing it. There's better equipment. Okay, so we're willing to make changes, but this isn't ready yet. So, but I just want to read one last thing, and I'll get out of your way here. I wrote an email to a woman this morning, asking her how everything went at the job we did yesterday, condo in Norwalk. I said we had 15 guys blowing all day long. We took out 11.5 tons of leaves. And she wrote back, it was amazing. I've never seen anything like it. Any complaints? Nope, no complaints whatsoever. People don't care. They want their lawns and properties to look good. That place is one of the biggest condos in Norwalk, up off Scribner Avenue. It looks beautiful, and that's what people want. So I think we have to slow this down and, not push it when it's not ready yet. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's Jason. I can't quite read it. Jason or Jean Conte.
Here we go.
Thank you for having us. I am the president of the Connecticut Groundskeepers Association. Just so you guys know,
Could you spell your name for us?
the last name is Conte, C-O-N-T-E, and with the Connecticut Groundskeepers. Just so you guys are aware, we are working towards electric leaf blowers. At this point, I don't think the technology is there. Just like when we have a diesel truck, they integrated the DEF system. It's a progress that you guys need to make forward. Same thing with a cell phone. We all started off with a flip phone. Now we all have an iPhone. It's very hard to go from a gas power to electric leaf blower right now. The technology down the road will grow. I don't think Norwalk is ready for it right now, as other cities are integrating it, but over time, they will progress to it. So I would like you guys to hold off on it and see better technology. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lisa Henderson.
Thank you and good evening for allowing us to speak tonight. I'm Lisa Henderson, 21 Apple Tree Lane, Norwalk. And also business owner in Norwalk. I won't take up much of your time tonight as I've forwarded my comments via email to all of you today. I'm hoping that each of you read them and they'll be included into the minutes. I would also expect that no person be given any additional time to speak publicly more than anyone else given the allotted time tonight. During the ordinance committee meeting in July, there were individuals who were no more experts than many of us in this room who were allowed to speak in favor of this ordinance for an extended period of time. They were considered experts. There are many of us who are more expert. I'm respectfully asking the council to vote down this ordinance until technology dictates new equipment purchases, not a misguided ordinance. Businesses should not be forced to buy equipment. This happens when technology improves. The ordinance is difficult to follow depending on if you have a gas or electric blower, or if you are a business owner or a homeowner. For instance, under Sunday operating hours, only property owners and tenants will be allowed to use any type of blower, gas or battery on a Sunday during the period of June 1 through October 15th and December 15th to April 1st. This excludes small businesses, again, many minority business owners barely making a living wage, especially if they're going to be banned from working on a Sunday. Many work extra jobs in the city. This is discrimination against small landscape businesses. Please vote down this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian D'Amato.
Oh, Brian.
Good evening, Brian. How's the family?
Very good. Mr. Rillen, how are you?
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us again tonight. I had wrote an email, I never went through, it just, I'm a longtime resident. 49 years, not only in my landscape, but my wife's also an elementary school teacher in Norwalk. This will affect a lot of us in this room and me personally, because my landlord won't allow us to charge electric blowers in his building. And in Norwalk, you guys are basically kicking a lot of landscapers and contractors out of here by changing zoning, but that's another day. Like you said, you don't want to go on to different subjects. So all I'm trying to say tonight is think about what you're doing personally to a lot of business. I employ 17 employees in Norwalk. They're not out of town, they're in Norwalk. So what's that gonna do when they lose their job? Where are they gonna go? Right? So all I'm trying to say is just think about it. I understand the environmental, I understand our health, I totally get it. They still sell cigarettes, they still sell alcohol, right? The police force just bought a whole bunch of cruisers. Not one of those cruisers was electric. Mr. Mayor himself doesn't drive an electric car. City of Norwalk has to go in a direction before you ask businesses to go into that direction. Okay, that's all I'm saying. If you guys decide that we're gonna do it, you guys have to do it first. You have to be front forward for us to look at it and say, okay, hey, look, this stuff works. Then we'll sit down and we'll talk about it and we'll make decisions after that. Thank you for your time. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Louise Washer.
Hi, everybody, Mayor Rilling, councilors, thank you for letting us speak tonight. My name is Louise Washer. I live on Silvermine Avenue in Norwalk for almost 25 years. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the Norwalk River Watershed Association and its over 2,500 members and participants in support of the proposed ordinance to restrict the use of gas leak blowers. I'm here tonight because I've heard from so many NRWA members who care about this issue and really want to see action on the part of the city. We're also hearing from members who live in Ridgefield, which is at the very top of the Norwalk River, at the beginning of our watershed. They are also considering a similar ordinance. We're really proud of Norwalk and Ridgefield for being leaders on this issue, which is so vital to protecting public health and the environment. Most of us understand now that the noise, air pollution, greenhouse gas emissions of gas leak blowers are particularly harmful. It's estimated that one gas leak blower emits 300 times the pollutants of a pickup truck. We've all heard these. But we can't really exaggerate it. The pollutants include carbon monoxide, formaldehyde, benzene, hydrocarbons, particulate matter, and nitrogen oxides, which contribute to the formation of ozone. Our region here in Fairfield County experiences one of the highest levels of ozone in the country. An EPA press release from last June warns of our area's high ozone levels and cites a need specifically to reduce the levels of use of gas-powered lawn equipment on days of low air quality. Part of the problem is that 30% of the gas and oil that these engines use is unburned and released directly into the atmosphere. In 2020, fossil fuel powered lawn equipment emitted more than 30 million tons of carbon dioxide. To put that in context, it's more carbon pollution than in 1 year than was emitted in the entire city from the entire city of Los Angeles in the year 2021. That's why California is set to enact a new law which bans the sale of gas-powered leaf blowers starting July 1st, 2024. The ban will help California achieve its goal of zero emissions from small off-road engines, or SORs, by 2035. Some landscapers have argued that these restrictions will lead to adverse impacts on their business. I would argue that this change is already upon us. There's no turning back. There are several landscapers in our area that are already fully electric and are profitable. This ordinance gives landscapers almost 5 years to transition to electric blowers. As I understand it, the Kiva loan program in Norwalk.
You're at 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Okay, provides no interest loans that can be used to help landscapers update. And the council has committed to taking a second look at these restrictions before September 1st, 2026 to make sure that battery life is expanding and is safe. This ordinance is in line with the transition already occurring in lawn equipment market, and we all recognize that the onus does fall on landscapers. And I just want to say, NRWA, we're already working to try to educate homeowners about the problems with gas leaf blowers, and we are doing more.
3
We're
minutes.
committed to it. Thank you.
Betsy Wren.
Good evening. I'm Betsy Wren, live at 67 Reed Avenue in Norwalk. And my husband and I do not use leaf blowers. We have an acre, we rake. All of our neighbors use lawn services. And our yard, it's Saturday, it's Sunday, it's anytime they feel like it. Our yard is full of stench. It's just this toxic poison from our next door neighbor, but neighbors on all sides. It drifts up from 3 doors down. I've taken to raking my neighbor's driveway, like about, I don't know, it's a long piece of driveway, just to keep those leaf blowers from, it takes them 20 minutes to do what I can do in 5. I mean, it's like nothing. I just sweep. They're they blow the tops of the bushes, they blow wood piles. It's just time. They're just spending time. So yeah, the filth, it's just that I can't even believe that we have to have this conversation because it's so objectionable. It's outrageous. And I mean, I found a journal entry that I wrote in 2014, 10 years ago, saying that I am driven utterly mad by having to listen to these it's constant. It's all summer long. We have a sweet little patio that we had installed. We can't use it. It's like, and we have to have music on, we have to have headphones, we have to make all, and I'm paying taxes. And my sister lives in Charlottesville. She said, come live in Charlottesville. Nobody uses leaf blowers here. It's quiet. And I'm thinking about it. I mean, it's the #1 problem in Norwalk, as far as I'm concerned. And there are rakes and they work and they're fantastic. And I'm 67 years old and I can do my whole.
2 minutes and 30 seconds.
I'm done. That's it. Thank you so much, even for considering this. It's a mental health issue as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Eve, Burlett. Sorry.
Hello, thank you for having me. My name is Yves Berlier. I live on 62 Wilson Avenue, resident and business owner in town. Just want to speak to you about, I'm for the ordinance. I want to speak about a slightly different angle. And sorry to bother you with that. I grew up with a father who was head of the 3rd largest truck company in Europe. This company became a larger company that bought Mack trucks. So I'm not anti internal combustion engines. I drive motorcycles. I fly small planes, and I have nothing against internal combustion engine. But there's something that is not mentioned, and it's really urgent in that ordinance, and it's really urgent, is what we call the 2-cycle engines. These are the ones that power your and my hand blower. These are the most pollution producing items you can find. They have to be small, they are simple, they are light, they are producing hydrocarbons like crazy. And I have some numbers from a study that was done by Edmunds, the car magazine, and it said that using a half hour of those small blowers, the handheld oil blowers, is equivalent to riding 3,900 miles with the F-150, Ford 150 Raptor. This is a 400 horsepower machine. I'll be glad to leave you that study. And these are the ones that we should get rid of right away. Now, the 4-cycle, the reason for the 2-cycle is bad is that because the burning is not complete, and we're rejecting a mixture of unburned oil and unburned hydrocarbons. The other way around it, and which I think the landscapers are using, is the backpack 4-cycle engine, which still produce 36 times the amount of hydrocarbon, 6 times the amount of nitrogen oxide, and 13 times the amount of carbon monoxide that the Raptor would do. On a different idea, and sorry to bring that up, as you might have guessed, I'm coming from a small village in France, and already, I guess we were—
2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Already we're more concerned about this, and we're concerned about the noise pollution. And in 1999, in my small village with only 200 people, we forbid the use of those equipments on Sundays and on Saturday for half a day. So you won't be surprised that it's around lunchtime and naps that equipment time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill Wren.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Bill Wren. I live at 67 Weed Avenue with my wife, Betsy, and I can just second what she said about the noise. And it's not just the noise, but it's the fumes. And we live in a kind of quiet area, but for most of the afternoon, especially this time of year, there's constant noise. It's probably noisier than it would be in an average street in New York City because of the leaf blowers. And what's happened over the years is that the blowers are used more often. They used to be just in the spring and fall, but now almost every summer day we have to put up with noise and fumes, and it just makes you wonder what is the value of living in a suburban town like Norwalk? So that's one thing. And then the other thing is that the stress just from having to listen to that all day long is pretty much universal. Everybody I've talked to over the last couple of weeks says, oh yeah, I hate the blowers, but people think there's nothing they can do about it. So this is why this ordinance is such a great thing. It's just it's a small step in the right direction. Personally, I think it would be great if we could ban them completely, but it's an incremental thing, and it's giving the landscape owners time to transition. And I think I was thinking about a principle of government that says, what can you do that will benefit the greatest number of people? In other words, not everybody's gonna like it, but you want to produce the greatest good for the greatest number. And I think this ordinance, it's not perfect, but I think it has more pros than cons. And I think eventually we'll reach the point where everybody will say, yeah, that was a great idea, but you have to take the step right now to make the incremental change. And just kind of like cigarettes, banning cigarettes in smoking indoors was a big deal. A lot of people didn't like that either, but now we get used to it. That people have to be able to change with the times. And the health benefits of not having leaf blowers greatly outweigh the detriment to people not being able to clean up their lawns in the same way they're doing
2
today.
minutes, 30 seconds.
Thank you. I'm finished.
Thank you.
Kevin Palinkas.
Kevin Palinkas, 32 Perry Avenue, Connecticut Lawn Equipment Incorporated. Gas engines that we're using now are not the best in the world. However, they're the best that we have at the moment. The technology is not there to switch all of the equipment, backpacks and blowers, 2-cycle, 4-cycle, to battery operated equipment. The batteries are proven unsafe, brand new uncharged, when they are charged, when they're discharged, when they're being charged. The fire department has problems putting those type of lithium batteries on fire. A family of 3 generations lost 1 person from each generation yesterday. Lithium battery, New York City. We don't know where the stuff is coming from. We want to recycle straws, plastic, bags, and everything. We have nothing set aside to where to store these batteries when they're no longer useful. If this is such a big problem in such a great city as the city of Norwalk, this should have been put on the ballot last week. The mayor and all the other people that were voted in last week, this was just as important. If it is, unfortunately, there's not a big turnout here tonight. For all the people that supposedly knew about this, this is a poor turnout. There's only about 40 people here. Majority of the people want the backpacks to go. It's going to be very difficult to keep the city of Norwalk looking as neat and as clean. Private, residential, commercial properties, raking them. This young lady over here rakes. I'm the same age she is. I'm not in the mood to start raking an acre of leaves. I'd love to know what she does with the leaves when she's finished with them. The equipment is not ready. Steel, one of the manufacturers of the backpacks, once they came out, they gave numbers. They were gotten pushed back and realized that the machines are not as powerful as they stated when they first came out with this battery operated equipment. There's also a problem of where to store the batteries when you're charging them during the day.
2 minutes, 30 seconds.
Okay, Mr. Mayor. It's also important at night where they're being stored or recharged so that they're made hopefully safe on the back of all these people's backs, whether they're male, female, workers, or residents. It's a very serious step to outlaw these. The federal government hasn't outlawed them yet, but yet we're trying to do this in the city of Norwalk. Please consider this before you vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Manzi, is there anybody online virtually that wish to address the council?
Yes, we have Audrey Kozarin, if you could unmute.
Hi, Audrey Kozarin, 19 Kendall Court. My husband is going to make a comment too, because we're using the same computer. So, yeah, I'm in favor of the ban. Listening to everyone, I had something else that I was planning to say, but one voice that I want to represent is the voice of nature. The leaves fall for a reason. They fertilize the soil. There's been a lot in the news lately about leaf blowers and also leaving the leaves. And I know that's been brought up before. Not every leaf is an enemy that has to be taken away. They provide nourishment for the soil that we depend on for the health of the planet, as well as overwintering shelter for small animals and insects. So this and the obsession with lawns, it's the #1 crop apparently in the United States is the lawn, which returns nothing in terms of food or shelter. So it just seems like if we can get some sort of education or some kind of information out there to people that they don't need to obsess over lawns. I'm sorry that the landscaping business may lose business or be compromised in some way. But discussing what the value is for our natural world is one voice, is nature doesn't have a voice. So I'm speaking up for nature right now, and I'm going to pass you along to my husband.
Thank you, members of council, for taking an additional comment, sharing my wife's computer. My name is Serafino Carey. I live at 19 Kendall Court. I'm in favor of the ordinance conceptually. I would just like to address just a couple of quick points and then come up with a conclusion, if I may. On a standpoint of safety, it is correct. People have stated that batteries can be dangerous. However, if you truly investigate the topic, you will find that most of the incidents with batteries stems from poor grade batteries. Not all lithium ion batteries, which is the predominant technology, are created equal. You get what you pay for. The second is the temperature range at which they're stored at during charging phase. And it's a fairly liberal range, but if it's not
2 minutes and 30 seconds.
You lumped my time in with my wife's. I'm sorry. That's not fair. The bottom line here is there's good charging equipment that monitors the battery's health and helps prevent fires. If people are that paranoid about battery safety, why do you carry personal electronic devices in your pocket? It's the same technology. And the reason why they don't explode in your pockets is because the batteries are high grade and they have sophisticated charging mechanisms that monitor them. So please keep that in mind. Technical innovation. This is an industry has a lot of dollars involved. And quite frankly, where there's money to be made, industries will respond. Worker health has been discussed. Technology pace is very rapid. Solid state batteries are on the horizon and they will change the equation dramatically.
In the interest of fairness, I've given you an extra minute because both of you were speaking. So
thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Diane Laricella, please unmute.
Hello? Can you hear me?
yes.
I'm sorry, there was a delay factor here in converting. Thank you. For the record, my name is Diane Loricella at 21 Little Fox Lane. In respect to time, I wanted to just say I agree with what Betty Ball, Save the Plastics, Louise Washer for NRWA, and especially what Serafino said, Audrey, and some of the other speakers about feeling a need to move this particular ordinance forward. I wanted to thank the council and the city for spending the time that has been spent. I do think, though, there might be a need to put this on hold briefly because I do not see enough wording in the ordinance about the concerns about lithium batteries. I did some research about that very tragic death of the family, 3 members. There are problems with the fact that so many in New York City are using the small engines with non-UL listed or certified batteries. And so I'd love to see some wording, and maybe they could just pass this and then amend it. I highly recommend there be some wording that states the type of battery that is expected to help not only the landscape companies, but also the safety of workers, so that the charging issues, and we did ask that the fire department and fire marshal's office weigh in on this. I'm not aware that they ever did. It was something that I requested over several different public hearings. I do want to say that in the same the same genre as many of your non-lapsing funds that you are voting on tonight. And of course, I do hope there will be a very well done accounting of all of these funds, that we have an associative educational forum. And I too stand as a member of Newark Zero Waste Coalition to help educate the public. But I do want to say possibly we could add, I think the Kiva program is terrific. Maybe we should all afterwards consider a non-lapsing.
2 minutes and 30 seconds, Ms. Laricella.
I will wrap up. A non-lapsing fund for helping many of the small businesses. I also wanted lastly to say that the only thing I think needs more work is, I think it's XX-5-B. It states that impervious surfaces, one can use leaf blowers at any time within the realm of the council. So I think that should be changed. I don't think that is correct. It should not be allowed. Thank you.
Anybody else, Mr. Manzi?
Dan D, if you can unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Gee, only 3 minutes? I thought there were 30. I have a whole presentation ready to go. Anyway, I'm happy to be here to support the blower restriction ordinance, and I think it's one of the better ones I've seen. I've worked on about 20 of them in towns around the area, including Montclair, Larchmont, where they did complete bans already. And so I think it's more than reasonable. And I think it's wonderful that you provide a 3-year window for landscapers to transition to electric gear. That's a long time to transition for two properties that are 2 acres or less. For properties that are 2 acres or more, you've provided 4 years. So 2027, 2028, very reasonable. And then banning gas blowers for the summer immediately, great move. At least give the citizens a little bit of a break. And You know, I've been doing lawn care for 18 years. I've never used a gas leaf blower, and we've grown to be $1 million company. And we've never used any gas leaf blowers. We don't use any gas anything. So this is a great ordinance. And there's other companies like mine. I was hoping to be the biggest all electric company in the Northeast, but I'm not. A company owned by a man who lives in Norwalk converted 24-year-old lawn care company, converted everything from gas to electric. And he's doing more business than we are. We're partnered in the EON Alliance, the Electric, Organic, and Native Alliance. These are 3 pillars of salvation that can help us get out of the mess we're in from a sustainability standpoint. Electric, low emissions; organic, less toxins; native, less likelihood of the food web collapsing because we've killed all the bugs, which kills all the birds, et cetera, et cetera. The leaves are important for the properties too. I think they get it right in Europe. They don't clean up leaves. They walk on them, they drive on them, they love the look of them. So everyone's a little bit crazy about stripping the land of the leaves. But blowers are not good for the land. So I love the ordinance. I hope you pass it. Mo Green has been around 18 years. We are clean and serene, no stinking gasoline, and everything we do is electric. And we have no problem.
2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Thank you. We've grown 30% on average year over year for 10 years straight. So you can definitely do it. You can get a blower and a battery to do hardscapes during the summer for a few $100s. The company that converted, the workers like it. They're happy. They don't want to use the gas. They don't have to go to the gas station and sit in line. So it's a big success. There's 4 vendors who want to serve Norwalk.
3 minutes. You're at 3 minutes.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else, Mr. Manzi? I believe there's 2 others.
Fred Zinzer, please unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I sent in a copy of my comments to Ms. Dixon earlier this afternoon, but just to run through them, I'll try and do it quickly. So by way of background, I've lived in Norwalk for 50 years. I'm 75 years old. I've got a little less than a half acre on June Bar Lane. I cut my own grass, and I use a backpack blower to pick up my leaves about 4 times a year. I paid $400 for the blower, and I've recently priced comparable battery operated backpack blowers, and a Toro, which is the only thing that would be comparable to the steel that I use, is $1,800, which would be a hardship for me to buy at this point. So participating in some of the hearings in the when this was in the ordinance committee, I became curious. I wanted to see what other towns in this area were doing. So I reached out to Darien, Greenwich, Richfield, New Canaan, Stamford, Westport, and Wilton, and I pulled down copies of their ordinances to see what they provided for with respect to gas-powered leaf blowers. I also reached out to the ordinance committee's counterparts in those towns, and they were very clear. They have no intent to ban leaf blowers. They felt it'd be a hardship on their residents. And I provided a copy of the relevant sections of those towns' ordinances to show you what they do provide for. But again, it's none of them provide for a ban. So Norwalk will be the only town in this area that has passed an outright ban on gas operated leaf blowers, which I know it would make some people here tonight proud, but I don't support it. I've heard from people that gas powered leaf blowers create noise that damages hearing. I can only say that if one follows the manufacturer's instructions, recommendations for wearing noise protection, it will not cause a hearing impairment, and it's certainly, the leaf blower won't damage a neighbor's hearing in the next yard.
2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Given the negative on lithium batteries, I called the fire marshal. I asked him what he thought about it. People charging these things in their garage. He said they're safe if you follow instructions. That's not very comforting because there's a lot of people out there that don't follow instructions, and the price that they would pay is that their house is going to catch fire, the family is going to be killed or injured. So
you're at 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
I don't see anybody else online. Okay, and we have, there's no other list up there with anybody? So we'll close public participation. There are no resignations or appointments tonight based on the timing of the year. For mayor's remarks, I just have a couple. First of all, tonight would be the last night for several of our council members that have served diligently. One is Mr. Ed Camacho, is not seeking re-election. David Hooverman, the same. Diana Revolus, the same. John Kides, the same. Heidi Alterman and Brian Meek. I want to thank them for their service on behalf of the city and for serving on the council for the past couple of years and working as a team to try to make things as well as we possibly can. So earlier today, I was proud to share the information that Norwalk scored 100% on the Human Rights Campaign Foundation Municipality Equality Index. An assessment is a nationwide quality assessment that rates the inclusion laws, policies, and practices that serve and support the LGBTQ plus community in over 500 cities. We know that we have a very diverse city, and that is one of our greatest strengths. And so I'm proud that we were able to achieve 100%. Revaluation, in case you haven't heard, tomorrow night is the informational session on Norwalk's 2023 revaluation project. It will take place at 7 p.m. in a community room. It'll also be held virtually via Zoom. The informational session will include a presentation on the goals of the revaluation, the steps that were taken to collect the data, the market analysis, and how the real estate market has changed since 2018 reval. Steps that were taken to ensure fair and equitable values, and the next step for informal appeals and hearings and more. It'll be Thursday evening will be also the Norwalk Talks Housing Community Listening Session. We will discuss the community's top housing concerns and gather feedback from the community. For those unable to attend, it will also be held on a Zoom meeting. And a little bit of excitement. If those of you who remember last year, we had the holiday extravaganza, and it was so well received that we said that we'd like to make this an annual event. Well, so this year, November 25th, from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m., it'll be on Washington Street. The next Saturday, the 25th. The festive event is an exciting way for our community to kick off the holiday season. The event will include many family-friendly holiday activities, including a holiday market, arts and crafts activities, games for all ages, a meet and greet with Santa, and a tree lighting ceremony. And I'm sure there'll be lots of entertainment. So if you can get out, I think you'll enjoy it. If you didn't come last year, you missed out on a lot. So come this year. Mr. Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to echo your comments in terms of thanking those council members who are rotating off the council. And on behalf of the council, for each of those council members, we have a commemorative plaque we'd like to give you. So Those that are here, Mr. Watson, thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate it.
That's good.
And Diana Governance.
That's lovely. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you. And those council members that are on Zoom or not available, we will ensure that you receive your plaque as soon as possible. I also like to thank the council for all of your support during this past year as I served as council president, especially the committee chairs, because they work very hard in terms of making sure that the items that are addressed here at the council table are fully vetted, and they work with the city staff to ensure that all of the issues are addressed and handled well, and they present each of those items to the council before we bring those items to the table. So I'd like to thank the committee chairs for the past year, David Hooverman, Barbara Smith, Darlene Young, John Kites, Lisa Shanahan, Jen McMurr, and Nicole Ayers as council chairs. So thank you very much for your service and your leadership. And then finally, I'd like to personally thank the mayor's staff, because there's so much that goes on in terms of bringing the meetings together and making sure everything happens in a very orderly manner. Irene Dixon and Zuma Roundtree from the ensuring that we have our agendas and all the information so that we come to the meetings prepared to do business. Sally Johnson, who has worked very closely in terms of ensuring proclamations are handled in a very efficient and expedient manner. Michelle Woods Matthews, ensuring that the communication that comes to the council is handled appropriately and keeps us aware of various events and activities. And also Tom Livingston as the chief of staff for all of the information that he shares with the committee and the council. So we want to give a strong shout out to the city staff for all their work in support of the council. This has been a very busy year on the council. Just a few things to highlight. First and foremost, we approved the charter revision. That was a tremendous piece of work. That was a long effort in terms of taking a document and modernizing it, and each member of the council provided valuable input to cross the goal line in terms of making sure we now have a revised charter. And we're not finished. There's much more work to be done, but we made the first step. And that was a very important first step. What else did we do this council year? I mean, the list is long and I won't bore you. You know what we have done. You've seen what we have done. We approved the 10-year master plan. We opened a brand new school at Cranberry School, a 68,000 square foot new elementary school, which is just downright beautiful. And so many other things that we've done. But I would have to say, to top it off, for the 23rd year in a row, we have shown that we are maintaining strong fiscal posture, and we achieved our AAA bond rating from all of the key rating agencies. So we are on the right path towards continuing to provide a tremendous level of well-being for Norwalk residents. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for that. And I'm being handed this. Okay, thank you. So before we move on to the consent calendar, just three other things. The majority leader, I'd like to thank Darlene Young for her service as the majority leader. I'd like to thank Brian Meeks for his service as minority leader. And I also like to thank a very key member of the staff that keeps us on the straight and narrow. Sometimes we might drift left to right, but he makes sure we're heading in the right direction, and I keep him very close to me. our corporate counsel, Mario Capola. Thank you very much for your assistance.
It is also, I forgot to mention, Tom was also a council person and he graciously stepped down so he could be my interim chief of staff. And just so you know, I've offered him the job permanently.
So with that, we will now move to the consent calendar, which will be read by Councilmember Nora Najolski-Eichman.
Thank you very much, President Burnett. Item 7A1, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute the renewal contract with the Connecticut Partnership Plan for Health Insurance Coverage effective January 1st, 2024. 2, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute any and all documents and agreements necessary to accept grant funding under the Department of Justice, Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services, FY23 Micro Grant, Community Policing Development Solicitation. 3, authorize the Chief of Police, James Walsh, to execute any and all documents and agreements as may be necessary to implement the Department of Justice, Office of Community-Oriented Policing Services, FY23 Micro Grant, Community Policing Development Solicitation. 4, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute a contract with Russell and Dawson, Inc., not to exceed $24,000 for structural engineer and administrative services on the Station 3 apparatus floor replacement project. Account number noted. 7B. This first item is consent to table. Mr. President, do you want me to read the item or merely note that it's consent?
Yeah, consent. Yes, if you consent to table and read out.
Okay, thank you. Item 1, authorize the Comptroller's Office to create a non-lapsing special revenue fund account to receive funds, sponsorships, and donations from neighborhood cleanups that can only be used on future or current neighborhood improvement initiatives. And again, that's consent to table. Item 2, authorize the chief building official to purchase 20 garbage can sets from Recycle Away LLC via sole source procurement in the amount of $53,992.40. Account number noted. Item 3A, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute an agreement with ARC Sound Stage Lighting for purchasing project 4323 stage lighting and sound services for Norwalk holiday events for a total not to exceed $30,000. Account number noted. Item 3B, authorize the Business Development and Tourism Director to issue change orders on the contract for a total not to exceed $3,000, 10% of the total contract cost. Account number noted. Item number 4, which is also consent to table, authorize the Comptroller's Office to create a non-lapsing special revenue fund account to receive funds, sponsorships, and donations for special events that can only be used on future or current special event expenses. Item 5, authorize the Comptroller's Office to create a non-lapsing special revenue fund account to receive funds, sponsorships, and donations for the Arts and Cultural District and the Arts and Cultural District Commission in accordance with the City of Norwalk Ordinance, Chapter 17A, Arts and Cultural Commission. 7C, 1, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute any and all agreements, documents, instruments, or amendments with the University of New Haven as may be necessary to allow for students in the university's graduate and undergraduate programs to be placed at the Norwalk Health Department for internships and student learning opportunities. Item E1, report of the Claims Committee dated November 2023. Item 2, for informational purposes only, narrative on tax collections dated November 2023. Item 3, for informational purposes only, monthly tax collectors reports dated October 2023. Item 4, authorize the purchasing agent to issue purchase orders to 443 Technologies for supply of a Nutanix HCI system in amount not to exceed $179,014. Account number noted. F1, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to accept sidewalk easements necessary to install curbs and sidewalks on Rowayton Avenue. That completes the reading of the consent calendar, President Burnett.
Thank you. You've heard the reading of the consent calendar. I'll call for the question. All those in favor show by or raise a hand or aye. All those opposed have the same right. Any abstentions? The motion passed. The consent calendar is approved. Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. We now have item 7C2, who will be speaking for Mr. Hooverman.
Thank
Mr.
you,
Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the Community Services Committee, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute any and all agreements, documents, instruments, and amendments as may be necessary with Mid-Fairfield Child Guidance Center, Inc., Middle School Mental Health Initiative under the Community Services Department for the period of September 1st, 2023 to August 31st, 2024 in the amount of $550,260, account number noted. I'd like to move this item.
The item is moved. Mr.
Thank you.
Burnett.
We continue to experience the impact of the pandemic, especially within our student population. And this funding is allocated to assist the middle school population as it relates to social emotional issues that they might be facing. And we have with us our Chief of Community Services, Mr. Lamont Daniels, to provide further commentary on this particular authorization.
Thank you, President Burnett, and good evening, members of the council and mayor. So I'm just here today to answer and respond to any questions, just to give us a little historical context that back in June, we presented to the VET for contingency to support this allocation. And as council, as President Burnett has eloquently indicated, that back over the summer, we continue to see the needs of mental health services provided for our children in the school system. And so this approval is for us to move forward and go in contract with Mid-Fairfield. I myself, as you all know, am a licensed clinical social worker and have worked with Mid-Fairfield. The need is still there. And this is, let me say at the top, this is a one-time grant for this program to continue for this school funding year. And then we'll just be working and supporting with Mid-Fairfield to partner with them to see how we can sustain it for the purpose of this authorization for the mayor to go in contract so we can allocate the funding to provide the middle schoolers the support services. I'm asking for your approval. I do just want to highlight quickly so we can identify how the city is using our funding to support the schools. Through this funding, we have a clinical social worker at Nathan Hale. We will also have this funding also supports an additional clinical mental health counselor at West Rocks Middle School, Rowayton Middle School, Deponis STEM Academy, and also the Concord Magnet School. And so we're very pleased that once again, the city of Norwalk, we are a leader and we has risen to the occasion to support our youth and asking for your support in this this contract. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments or discussion? Ms. Revolus?
I do have a question. Although this is good, I just wondered, and particularly I'll put my own stuff out there with my child. There was a time where, I was just diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Her family situation was crazy. We're going through a lot. There was mental support in the school, but we were able to also support her outside of the school with supports that are actually just not documented through the school. It's more private. It's more conducive to the child, family, so on. Is there any space and place in this funding that is also geared to helping families get supports outside, teaching parents how to get support outside, helping fund supports outside? Yes, it should be in the schools to an extent, but that is someplace that should have more wholeness to me within the family. Do we support that as well with this?
Absolutely, that's a great question. So this program, the school officials do make the referrals, but there's a holistic approach that while the treatment is provided in school, Mid-Fairfield also works with the families. And the goal is to provide short-term support and counseling with the understanding that we do want to make these referrals into the community. And so there's a continuum of care model that we want to connect our children and the families with these services. And I also want to point out that a part of this requirement that our department is always really emphasizing that and shout out to Mid-Fairfield that through this particular middle school initiative, they have been able to hire both bilingual English, Spanish, and both bilingual Haitian Creole. So again, we're speaking with families in their native language so they can provide the services, but also encourage them and help them navigate community resources.
Not only do I appreciate that, and extending to what I just said, the representation in the outside, like for example, in working with Stanford Hospital, we're dealing with a lot of professionals that are Haitian coming to the Haitian community, for example, right? Like, so do we also have an extensive representation of professionals that gear to the family as well, like a Haitian psychiatrist for a Haitian family, for example, just using that for example.
Absolutely. We're always looking, it's very difficult, but most certainly working with families to help them feel the most comfortable. That's always a goal of ours. And sometimes we're successful and sometimes we're not, but that is a goal of ours to identify families so they can, be treated in their own language.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Further comment, discussion, questions? Seeing none, Mr. Meek, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I missed this. Is this an ARPA account?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further? Okay. Mr. Meek, your hand is, okay. So seeing no further questions or comments, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Mr. Daniels. Next item is item 7D1, Ms. Shanahan.
Yes, thank you. So I would like to move to approve the new ordinance on the leaf blowers, Your Honor, and I'd like to make some comments regarding that.
Ms. Shanahan moves the item, and Ms. Shanahan, you have the floor.
Thank you. During the COVID shutdown, we received dozens of complaints about the constant roar of leaf blowers disrupting the work, schooling, and lives of our residents. Isn't there something you can do? We were asked. Our residents' quality of life is being deeply disrupted by these noisy machines. These complaints continue to this day. The Ordinance Committee researched the impact of gas leaf blowers on the health and safety of our residents, our workers, as well as possible alternatives to their use. We spoke with our DPW and Rec and Parks departments to learn their thoughts regarding the transition to electric technology and to pick a timeframe that was realistic within their capital budget needs. We spoke with landscapers to listen to their concerns. We invited health and environmental experts to come speak to our Ordinance Committee to provide scientific data as to the health dangers posed not only by the noises these machines create, but also the exposure to toxic fumes emitted by their two-stroke engines. It turns out that these machines generate large amounts of carbon dioxide, which is the leading driver of climate change. We also found that we're not alone in addressing this concern. Many cities and states are restricting the use of these noisy and dangerous machines as well. California is imposing a ban on the sale of new gas-powered leaf blowers in the next year, and many cities in our vicinity are imposing seasonal restrictions on their use as well to establish transition periods to move to electric. Oftentimes, when one finds that a machine is a toxic source of pollution, there aren't viable alternative machines posing less risk. In this case, we are lucky there is an alternative, which is electric leaf blowers. I invite our citizens to learn more about this quickly improving technology by reading the Consumer Reports article by Paul Hope that was dated May 16th of this year, in which he reports this. At first glance, it might look like a draw, with electrics outperforming gas in many tasks, but gas acing it in key areas like sweeping and loosening. But when you look more closely, electric is the clear winner. That's because while gas models as a group do well in few important tasks on average, there in each instance also are a few electric leaf blowers that match or beat that performance. In contrast, no gas models are quiet by any stretch, and the best electric leaf blowers we've tested match or beats the best gas models in every single test we conduct. The only case made here for gas relates to charge times and run times for batteries.
But keep in mind that batteries for leaf blowers we've tested charge to 5 to 48 minutes and work in an average of 94 minutes. That's a pretty strong case for electrics. What's more, they're also better for the planet, better for your ears, and over time, they're probably better for your wallet too when you factor in a gas model's lifetime cost of gas, and in some cases, oil. Consumer Reports is a well-regarded source that conducts independent and unbiased tests of equipment. We've heard a lot about the safety of mining lithium and the lithium batteries themselves. And inherently, of course, energy extraction is an environmentally disruptive activity, whether we're drilling for oil, fracking for gas, or mining for lithium. Most energy sources are implicitly combustible. And that said, lithium batteries are safe enough that we allow ourselves and our children to carry cell phones around in our pockets all day. We sit in front of computers powered by them, and we drive in vehicles propelled by them. Finding energy sources that do not add toxic fumes and carbon to our environment, as do gas, oil, and propane, is essential to lowering the impact of climate change. So the committee tried to balance the existing technology with anticipated future improvements. City and businesses need to fiscally plan for the future and for financial necessities, and human environmental safety concerns. All of these went into crafting this ordinance. However, if the technology does not advance as expected, we do place a fail-safe provision in our ordinance that requires the council to revisit the dates we've chosen to phase out gas leaf blowers. We call it the Camacho Amendment that was crafted at our last public hearing. And it requires us to revisit this ordinance, to speak again with the city's DPW and Park and Rec departments, to speak again with our landscaping community, to verify that the electric leaf blowing technology has advanced to where it needs to be for us to reasonably transition to electric and to these batteries in the outlined time period. So I'd like to just quickly give you the highlights of the new ordinance. First, the safety equipment is required, and it includes hearing and respiratory protection. That's going to be required immediately for the employees of landscape businesses. This is essential because it's going to protect the health and safety of our workers. The use of leaf blowers from June 1 through October 15th will be prohibited on lawns, gardens, parks, but electric blowers can be used on impervious surfaces, like patios, pool surfaces, things like that. Hours of use are established. Exceptions for emergency use of gas leaf blowers are provided in case there's hurricanes, other disasters. And then the gas leafers themselves will be phased out for 2-acre and smaller properties on January 1, 2027, and for properties larger than 2 acres after January 1, 2028. And as a fail-safe, our Camacho Amendment requires that the Common Council must affirmatively vote no later than September 1, 2026 to confirm the dates of prohibition of these gas leaf blowers. And this provision ensures that the council will reassess the state of electric technology and battery technology to make sure that these dates are reasonable and safe. Good legislation requires compromises by everyone to ensure that all voices and needs are represented. We're trying to give everybody a chance to understand that change is coming and to plan for that change. And the majority of our committee believes that this new ordinance is an appropriate compromise that serves our residents, our landscape workers, our city budgetary needs, the business community, and the environment.
Thank you, Ms. Shanahan. Comments or discussion? Mr. Meek?
Thank you, Mayor. I won't belabor a lot of the points here. I left $1,400 no bid garbage cans on consent, but this one is pretty outrageous. This is a solution looking for problems. You know, it sticks it to the homeowner quite a bit in terms of increased costs, but moreover, the working man who I thought this city kind of took care of. And, you know, you've heard a lot of testimony from these guys tonight. You're incurring a lot of costs out of them. And, you know, back to the homeowners, you know, most of our leafier neighborhoods don't even have leaf pickup. And we got a leaf dump that's open for fewer hours than most banks are open. I could get behind something like this if we made it more conducive for people to take care of their yards within the constructs of our government, but it doesn't seem like we're doing any of that with here. Personally, I use electric on my front yard. I pay a guy to do my backyard. With his gas blower, he said it would cost double. I think the electric blower is way louder than my gas blower. I just can't figure out how to get the thing started every year, so I use the electric one. I just I don't see how this is the biggest issue for the city. And another part of the ordinance that doesn't make any sense is we're going to enforce what OSHA recommends. Well, why isn't OSHA enforcing what OSHA recommends? Why are we doing OSHA's job? It just seems like a lot of government overreach. I'm going to vote no against on it. That's why I pulled it off consent, and that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Najosiak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to speak in favor of the ordinance and also respond to a lot of the very thoughtful comments that we've heard from folks. And I really appreciate how many people have come out to speak on this issue over several hearings on all sides. And it's been, I think, very helpful and very informative. And I want to begin by acknowledging a point that I think a couple of people have raised about the importance of the city serving as a role model. And I really want to highlight that the city has been working in a number of directions to do so. And I certainly have been pushing hard for that over the last 2 years. And I think that part of why we have chosen the timeline that we did is because it is a timeline that our own departments can meet. And so we are not asking of others anything that we do not think we ourselves can and will do. And I think that is an important model that we really are happy to put forward to say that we understand that this is going to be a major transition, and it is one that we expect to work with our own departments on being able to make. And similarly, I think some good comments that we received in relation to health and safety caused me to reach out to our Department of Public Works and ask them, are we making sure that our contractors who are milling our roads are wearing their safety protective equipment when they're doing so, when we're doing other dirty and tasks that could potentially pose health risks? And I encourage anyone, if you see Norwalk City contractors not wearing their protective equipment as they should be, to please file a complaint. Let us know about that. Call the complaint line and let them know, because they absolutely should be. So we do take very seriously our responsibility to be models here in the city. And we are certainly eager to make sure that we are providing our health and safety and protective equipment for all of the tasks that we do that could be impacting of people's health. I also want to acknowledge Mr. Meek's comments on composting. This, again, is another conversation that we are actively engaged with in the city. How can we expand our ability to compost our own leaves? How can we figure out ways to make use of these resources if we want to, preserve our leaves and use them in effective ways to further our ongoing work to more organically landscape our parks? We're going to need more compost to do so. We have an opportunity there for synergies. These are conversations that are ongoing and being explored. So I think we're taking very seriously the challenge that you all are posing to us to walk the same walk that we're asking other people to walk. And I really look forward to working with everyone and hearing more community ideas about that over the next few years. And I know that the mayor has been proud to say that Norwalk is going to be the greenest city in Connecticut. And I think that's a challenge that we all take very seriously to work towards. Similarly, I want to really emphasize the importance of safety, which applies to gas as well as to lithium, right? We don't store gas in our homes. We don't, expect that people are going to safely store gas fumes and not in front of an open flame and not expect an explosion, right? So this is a lesson for all of us. We need to take our time to really invest in the safety and consider how we store whatever materials. And I think for all of us, we're very familiar with gas safety, right? We all get trained as kids by our parents, how to be safe with our vehicles, how to, make good, responsible decisions about flammable things. We'll have to do the same training and do the same learning. This is a process for all of us. And again, I think it's very helpful that we are discussing these issues actively now, because a lot of this is educational, right? The value of an ordinance often is that it puts a mark forward for the public. It gives us all an opportunity to have these discussions, to start thinking strategically, to have, homeowners in Norwalk begin to think about what services are they being provided? What do they need? What do they not need? And so I really recommend that everyone spend the next few years thinking about this issue in a way to say, what can I do this month? What can I do this year? How can we do this gradually? What do I need to educate myself on? How do I need to explore safe storage options? And we will all get to a point where we're used to doing so in the same way that we're now used to how we safely store and handle gas. And finally, I'm sorry, two other items, I apologize. This again is an opportunity. The city has already announced that we are hiring more blight inspectors. That was part of why we chose to have this ordinance enforced through our blight department. So again, there's a strong synergy here between the city's ongoing goals and work and the way that we've structured this ordinance. So people will have a way to seek enforcement, and that will be through the blight mechanisms. And finally, I do want to call out the Kiva program again. I certainly recognize that it is not going to be a solution for our larger businesses, but for our very small businesses, Kiva is a program that can provide no interest loans and is a way of meeting the need for capital investment that then can be recouped through the process of, for instance, not spending on gas. So we really have tried to be very thoughtful about making sure that we do have options in place for our small business owners. Folks should reach out to Pedro Mata in the city's business office. And he is able to help folks with considering whether the Kiva program or whether other programs might be a good fit. So again, we really appreciate the opportunity to think about how we can address the many different facets of this program and look forward to working with folks 2026 to get more feedback. Hopefully by that point, the technology is in place. People have had time to process and consider the options so that we can implement this regulation on the timeline that we're proposing. And I really do think that it has gotten much stronger because of the public feedback. And I really appreciate the opportunities that people have given us to think about how we can make this work as well as possible for the community.
Thank you. Further comment? Ms. McMurray and then Mr. Freer.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to start off by thanking Lisa and the committee for all of the time that they put into this. I know there were a lot of effort and a lot of time and hours that went into that, and I really appreciate it. I am not against going electric when it makes sense, but there are several reasons I will be voting against this initiative tonight, and I'd like to outline those. One, I think we can all agree gas is bad for the environment, but so are the mining of and disposal or lack thereof of batteries. I do not think it is our role to trade one problem for another. I'm also concerned about the use of child labor to mine the cobalt needed for lithium batteries. Two, I'm concerned with the number of batteries one will need and how they will be stored. Our own Parks and Recs and DPW team have expressed concerns about this, and we arguably have larger teams and storage space than many landscaping companies, as many of you have noted this evening. If you must purchase several batteries to keep up with the work you are doing day to day and you do not have the means to store them properly, this could create a fire hazard. Many of our landscaping companies are small with one truck and are often parked in residential neighborhoods. Three, technology needs to be in a place where we feel confident forcing landscapers, big and small, to trade their current models and spend the money and resources on electric leaf blowers. I don't think we're there yet. I believe we will get there, but I don't think that time is now. This ordinance states that you will have until 2027, 28, 26, whatever it is, to build up your supply and change out your gas leaf blowers for electric ones. But why would anyone start doing that now if the technology is not there yet? Aren't we then asking people to trade in and then trade in again, creating more waste? As many of my colleagues will tell you, this is a plan to move toward this, but none of us have a crystal ball, and I don't believe in making policies for years in the future. I want to base it on the facts we are available now. Four, the cost is a huge concern for me, not only for the city, but also for the landscapers who run their businesses for their livelihood. That cost will need to be covered by someone, and I'm afraid the very people we are trying to protect may be without a job at the end of this. In terms of the city workers, we just added more Parks and Rec team members to help with fields and upkeep over the past 2 years. I'm afraid we will be taking 2 steps back by adding this extra work onto their plates. And by extra work, I mean having to change out batteries, charge batteries, ensure batteries are charged throughout the day, etc. We also just added, or we are adding, extra blight officers. But in my opinion, it's not to enforce this. It's to enforce blight that happens so much around our city and has been neglected because of the lack of staffing. If we move forward with this, it will cost the city at least $383,693.96 for 52 blowers, 1,040 batteries, and 520 chargers. It will also require 2,426 amps of power. To compare, most residential homes are built with 200 amp surface. I personally feel there are bigger priorities in front of us at this time. Number 5, the fighting this will create between neighbors who will inevitably turn on each other and complain about one another. I also think it will be extremely hard to enforce, whether it be by blight officers or someone else. By the time someone calls to complain and the officer appears, the company may have wrapped up and have left. An ordinance is only as good as it is enforced. There are, however, two things I am not against in this ordinance. One, a limit on when and what time leaf blowers can be used. It is my understanding that this all stemmed from noise complaints during the pandemic. Westport created a similar ordinance, and if that is the complaint, I am fine with voting on that piece. However, we have a noise ordinance and it is also very hard to enforce. Two, education and safety of landscapers and employees is also a good thing. I want everyone who wants to wear protective gear to have access to it, and I believe everyone should be educated on the dangers of this job. Everyone should be as safe as possible when conducting any kind of work. Again, I'm not against going electric when it makes sense. I just don't think it makes sense right now for Norwalk, so I will be voting no on this initiative this evening.
Mr. Freer?
Yes, I would like to add my support to this ordinance this evening. Many of our neighboring municipalities, Greenwich, Larchmont, Westport, New Haven, Hartford, have either adopted or are considering implementing restrictions, as well as complete bans on gas-powered leaf blowers. There's many reasons why we should be all concerned about gas-powered leaf blowers, and it's clear, and those reasons have been. And it's very clear that they're not talking about lawn mowers, weed whackers, clippers, other lawn maintenance. We're just talking about leaf blowers. In committee meetings and public hearings that we've heard from industry experts on the evolving power and quality of electric alternatives to gas-powered blowers over the course of the year. We've listened to the comments of landscapers. We've concerned about the especially those that are concerned about the economic impacts to their livelihood, should the technology not be up to the test. And for that reason, we did listen, and we decided that we wanted to include the Camacho endorsement on this ordinance that amended it so that we can stop and take a look on September 1st, 2026. If the technology is not there, then we can spread this out a little bit longer. In addition, we met with landscapers and we did get their input, and we suggested working together to help them transition to new technology. Whatever we can do to make that transition more easily, including possible funding for new equipment. We noted that the change is coming and that we wanted to make sure that their businesses are going to be ready and not adversely impacted by those changes that are inevitable. Thank you.
Further comment, Mr. Goldstein?
I want to thank my colleagues, both who have really, especially Lisa, who has put an enormous amount of work, and Jim and city staff who made an enormous effort here. Since I've been on the ordinance committee and I feel like I've seen this from start to this point, I think it's important to address, and I recognize actually a lot of people in the audience who were at our ordinance committee hearing that happened in July. And I think it's important to touch on that meeting because, for lack of a better term, you kind of saw the sausage getting made. And we took a lot of those comments, and out of a lot of legitimate concerns and comments came what Councilman Camacho amended and made, I think, this ordinance better, because it really dealt with two things at the same time. First is, I do plan on voting in support of this ordinance, as I did in voting to take it to public hearing. And one of those reasons is because if we vote in support of this ordinance, no one can walk out of here and say, we ban leaf blowers tonight. And the reason we can't do that is because the council will be required to affirmatively vote in a few years whether the ban is going to be in effect. So if we vote tonight, there is no effective ban that's going to happen because we have to vote again. And that's in response to the concerns that industry and the landscapers here have, and people in the landscaping industry have laid out to say, I don't believe that I can safely maintain and have the technology to run my business with a purely electric model. We respond to those concerns by adding this provision in, and I think that helps deal with those concerns so that if a future council in 2026 believes that the technology isn't there yet, those concerns can be addressed and dates can be pushed out if necessary. And that's I think that's an incredibly important distinction, and I think that's some of the large focus of the debate tonight about the phasing out and the ultimate prohibition of gas-powered leaf blowers. Tonight's vote really isn't about that. What it's really about are the provisions that don't seem to be controversial at all, which is the hours of operation and the season. Those are the only things that really are going into effect if we vote this into support tonight. And I haven't heard one person make a public comment against those things. So as far as I see, we're sort of waiting and seeing about the technology itself and whether the ultimate prohibition would take place. This vote tonight is primarily about the things that don't seem to be very controversial at all. So for those reasons, and I thank my colleagues for working so vigorously on this issue, I will be voting in support of this ordinance.
Ms. Harris?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to also acknowledge the work of the ordinance committee as they have brought this forth to the whole council. I have some very serious concerns. The impact of this ordinance on the everyday worker, I do not think in local businesses, I do not think has been laid out correctly. We need to do more work engaging all residents that are affected by this ordinance. And it is my opinion that the committee, even though they have made efforts, have fallen short in engaging all community members. We cannot promote a greener community at the extreme cost of small businesses. I've often heard tonight the reference to the Kiva loan. Let us be honest and transparent to our constituents. The Kiva loan is not for every business. Most businesses will not be eligible for the Kiva loan. Those individuals who work for themselves, who may not have an established business and may be doing landscaping or other things using leaf blowers as a secondary income, will not qualify for the Kiva loan. Council people, we have no way currently to give extra money to anybody in need that do not qualify for the Kiva loan. I have also heard a few of my colleagues mention what they are entitling the Camacho Amendment. 2 years in the lifetime of a business can be detrimental. It was said that it is a fail-safe, but rather is a safe way to fail. Businesses, particularly small businesses, do not have 2 years to wait to see if something is going to work or not work, when many businesses are functioning from quarter to quarter. This ordinance came out of noise, but if we are honest and truthful, there are other neighborhoods in our city that are also dealing with noises, but we did not make any special ordinances for those communities. Funding, where is it? We have no way of funding or helping to fund people to transfer from gas to electric without saying that something might possibly come. Any person that owns a business and has any background in risk management will know that it is a poor statement to say when funding comes. You cannot do risk management. You cannot tell your children when I get paid, they're going to be hungry tonight. Unfortunately, you do not have my support for leaf blowing. You do not have my support for the things in which I have listed, but you also do not have my support because, again, I think we did a poor job reaching out to those people who are directly affected. And those are not necessarily the landowners, nor are they the business owners, but they are the day workers that work for landscaping companies. They are those individual people who may not have a team of people. It might be a son and a father. It might be a family. I do not think we have done our due diligence, and it's a disgrace to our community to push this ordinance through. We could have waited to work on it, heard more testimony, figured something out, but we decided to present it today. And because of that, I will not vote for this ordinance.
Mr. Camacho?
This ordinance has the potential to be super expensive for the city of Norwalk and really harsh on small companies as well. the bigger the company, ironically, the more investment they have to do to a transition from a gas blower to electric at a pretty significant expense, and the small business owner or the one person operation is going to have a difficult time as well purchasing equipment to do the job that they currently do with the gas leaf blowers. But it is inevitable, I think, that this technology will become the norm. And the reason that I am going to vote for it is because precisely what has been said. This ordinance will not be going into effect today. And it might very well not go into effect on September 1, 2026 or in 2027. It's up to the city council. It was previously, the way it was initially written, it was the burden was on the community to come to us to basically lobby against it going into effect in 2026. The burden is now on us, which does not mean that landscapers can't and shouldn't come to the city council, the common council in a year or year and a half from now and show us or establish that the technology is not there. It's really not just a question of whether the battery life is has expanded sufficiently or whether or not it is safe to have these batteries, but it is really primarily, in my view, whether or not it is cost effective. And if in 2 years the city council determines that it is not yet cost effective, part of that determination is going to include how expensive it's going to be for the city of Norwalk. Because the city of Norwalk has a lot of equipment and there's a lot of land that the city of Norwalk has to take care of. So we're all in this together. I think the city council will hopefully do its due diligence in 2 years. I'm sure it will, with the help of the landscaping, with the help of the landscaping community and the rest of the community, providing us feedback. I'm sure that they will do what makes sense at that point. If it makes sense to have this thing go into effect, then that will be the vote. If, on the other hand, it's decided that the technology is not there, that it is not cost effective at that point, then this ordinance will lapse. It will die on the vine. And it will be up to the city council to go back to the drawing board, to go back into committee, to have more meetings, to have more input from the public, and decide at that point what should happen. It could very well be that part of the new ordinance, if this should fail in 2026, it could be that there's a transition period, a 2-year, 3-year, 4-year transition period that's added to the ordinance to allow for companies to sort of transition in a more easy way or more cost-effective way, if in fact the technology is not there in 2 years to make it cost-effective then. So there are many possibilities. What is clear is that this ordinance, as much as anything, is aspirational. We are really sending a signal to not only the landscaping community, to homeowners, but also to people who, and the companies that produce this technology, that changes are coming, and we are trying to encourage that change to occur as quickly as possible, because it's important. It's important for all of us. So I'm going to vote yes, because I think that there's enough in here that requires that will require us to sort of revisit and hopefully vote in the way that the facts dictate in 2 years, and we can make whatever changes we need to at that point. So I'm going to vote yes, because this is needed, and it's important for us to start thinking in this direction.
Further discussion? Ms. Revelous?
Um, so if anyone has followed me, it's my last time, so I'm just gonna be blatant and honest. And listening to everyone, I have throughout, since we've been talking about electric cars, electric this, electric that, been against it. I believe it's a human rights situation, especially coming from a country that, you know, lithium, iridium, all these stuff are getting digged up. It's a human rights issue. Then it's not sustainable to me. I don't think these electric anything is sustainable. Charging these batteries, disposing these batteries. I've talked to professionals. I've talked to people dealing in the car industry, whatever they see that there's a lot of businesses moving to actually propane instead. We do have the ability of water. I don't even know why we're not thinking about powered water systems that may be helpful. But what actually had me for a second was Camacho's amendment, because like everyone knows, all of you know, I've been against it. So to look at it in 2 years and revisit it, to me is kind of okay, fine, because we can at least, you know, examine what's going on. But what I just heard, especially with our rebuttals, and in particularly again to Mr. Camacho, which I do appreciate. One of the things sitting here is I represent a community that, you know, financially can't pay for you to pretend to figure this out or not. They're not going to pay for this. And in 2 years, you say, well, we didn't do this right, and we're going to just redo it. You know what is a problem for a lot of us that you guys didn't knock on the doors? Living next to these companies, the trucks, the dust, the waking up just this morning with huge 18-wheel DPW trucks on Woodward Avenue blocking that. Like, that's an annoying noise problem. I literally live next to a landscaping company who believes that it's party time after they close and their music doesn't stop till like 10, 11 o'clock, and don't let it be a weekend. You know what I mean? I think for what we were saying was noise. And again, for what I thought, especially for the Camacho part of revisiting this, Lisa did amazing work. And last night, I was for like Camacho's revision. I'm not for playing with our community and our money and the fact that no matter what, whether it be a small business or a family just trying to get to school, we are relocating people because we just can't afford it. And we just keep throwing more reasons for them to spend and say, forget it, sorry. We're not gonna do it that way. I think we should revisit it when it comes to the police department, the fire department, everything that we're gonna just go electronic. I wish I can go back to an analog. If I didn't have this phone, I think this phone is a problem too. I believe that our issues aren't stemmed. It's not the biggest. I think, yes, you can rake. I think you're amazing for raking. Okay. I think that completely. I think it's ridiculous how long they blow these things. Again, I'm in a place where I'm a tenant. I'm not an owner. The owner won't even tell me who really owns it. But when it's blowing and doing all that stuff, the owner's not there. So if you're talking to the owner, the people that it's bothering, you're not talking to. You know what I mean? So I think this is kind of like I get it, but let's stop just doing stuff to make it feel good. You know what I mean? Like, let's really sit back, take on this. I do get what you're saying about, the dates and time. That's really what's being moved today, right? We're looking to see if this is going to work 2 years from now. So maybe let's be assessing what's proper in 2 years, period. And then come back and sit to this and say, should we vote? I do see that we want to have this council do this. I get that. I am so beyond honored to be able to sit with all of you, but representing especially the community and even with business owners. A lot of you say the workers, but and I don't mean this against any workers, but if you had more licensed employees, you wouldn't even be able to get away with the things you're doing for these workers not to be safe. You know what I mean? Like it's literally to do that, or to just go to a lower cost employee is what you're doing for not having safer mechanisms within your employment, especially when it comes to landscaping, right? You're cutting costs already. So if you would employ proper licensed employees, you couldn't covering the mass and this and that and so. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So that being said,
Brian,
I'm just saying.
Brian, stop. Brian, the audience has had their opportunity. Now it's the council's turn. Brian, stop. Stop.
I'm gonna still say it though. So that being said, I believe that this is well thought. Lisa, you're doing an amazing job on this. We talked and I said, Ed Camacho's part is what got me, right? I was not in this at all. I'm just not okay with thinking that we would use taxpayers' money for 2 years and say, oops, this might not be it. That's what really gets me right there. You know what I mean? Because the city has to then do those changes. And there are families who really just can't afford those and say, oops, we don't want that. And the whole of Norwalk shouldn't be burdened by and I'm a business owner in Norwalk. Okay, I'm not just saying this out of feel left. I'm a business owner here too, right? The whole of us shouldn't be burdened by just a few. Those same people who have to pay for a lawn blower or a leaf blower is concerned, and we get yelled at for school and comparing what's the budget for the schools. Right? Like, what are we doing? I think this gotta just kind of sit down for a second. And I was with you, I really was, but it's what we're gonna do to our community to pay for this that I have a problem with. And so for my last day, when I tell you, Lisa, I'm for you, I'm behind you. It's just, I can't make especially those that I represent, pay for something that can be an oops. That I'm concerned with.
Further comment or discussion? Ms. Young?
So listening to my colleagues, I hear both sides of this issue. And I must say that my first inclination was that the burden was on the landscapers, the business owners, and was not very comfortable with that. I think after hearing that the revisions that were made and the fact that you listened to the folks that came out to the public hearing to speak, and all the letters and all the pros and cons of all of this, and then you came back with the revised version of that ordinance based on the input we got from you all, I think was the way to go. And adding Councilmember Camacho's amendment helped me as well look at this in a different perspective. I think what I'm comfortable with the time, and for me the document sounds flexible, and I hope that it is flexible because that's what we're really going to need. Because I think what we are hearing is that in 2 years the technology may not be where we want it to be, and I think we really need to have mechanisms in place that if that is true, that we don't put the burden on the contractors or the owners. And I think that's what I hear us saying. And that helps me move this forward and support this ordinance moving forward. I know that one of the things that I've talked to you, Lisa, about, and I think I mentioned it to maybe a few others, is that I think it's important for us to include your voices more. We did not do a good job, as has been said, reaching out to a varied mix of everyone who's engaged in the landscaping world. And that's the small mom and, single person with 1 or 2 employees, or the bigger organizations. Like I hear that some of you have bigger businesses, but you're all impacted. We're all impacted in the city. It's not just one person or this. We're all impacted by the decision that we make. And whether it's, I don't live on a half an acre, I don't live on an acre, I live in a densely populated community, but we have leaf blowers, and it is annoying, but maybe not to the degree that you folks that live in larger areas deal with on a regular basis. But I think it is an issue. Noise is an issue of all kinds in the city, and I appreciate my fellow colleagues mentioning that. And so we need to address that, but I'm comfortable with the flexibility in this ordinance. But I do say, and I suggest that we have you all in the audience participate in some sort of ad hoc committee, something that you all bring to us your concerns. You let us know where technology is. We need the pros and the cons, because sometimes, not sometimes, a lot of times, if we have a perspective, we can find people to support our perspective, right? If I don't believe in what's going on, I can find somebody to support what I need. We have to have a balanced conversation here. It's coming. We can't avoid it. We'd like to be ahead of the curve. And I think that this is our step as a city collectively to do that. And as the gentleman mentioned, the city should be the role model. And we are doing that, as was expressed by one of our council members. We are taking that lead because we have to do that. I think we do have an electric vehicle. So we have those conversations. We may not be as far along as our surrounding towns, but in some instances, we are moving a little farther along than they have. But I will be supporting this, and I want to say thank you to the committee for your hard work on this. I know that this was not an easy task, but moving forward, I think one of the things that I really want to see us do is have a committee that is engaging while we go through this process. And again, I think if we say at 2 years, we're not there with the technology, we need to move on. We need to, until we get it right, and until the majority of you are comfortable with moving forward in a way that doesn't overburden you financially, because the goal is not to put people out of business. That would be a mistake for us. The goal is not to put people out of business, but we need to move in this direction together. Some people are going to be happy, some may not, but I think this is where we're headed as a country, and I support this. Thank you.
Further comment or discussion? Mr. Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I won't extend the comments that have already been made. I simply want to say that approving this ordinance puts the subject item on the table for further discussion, further vetting, further work. It's not the end, it's the beginning. It starts the dialogue. We all know that change is not comfortable, but we have to start somewhere. And by approving this ordinance, puts the subject on the table. And I want to thank everyone that's been here for the past almost 2 hours. And you shared your comments. I want to thank those that I've spoken with, but Lisa Henderson, I'm going to call you out for your discussions with me and opening my eyes in terms of what's been going on. But again, I just want to say approving this ordinance puts the subject on the table so that we can continue to move forward. Thank you.
Further comment or discussion?
Please, I'm sorry, I do, but Lisa, may I ask you a question? Is there any way to, I know, but on the city side of things, while the 2 years is going, is there a limit we could kind of stop?
The city isn't paying.
Are you calling for a vote?
No.
No.
No, not yet.
Ms. Revolution is asking, is this what the cost to the city?
No. I was just saying, in the 2 years, like, I was just in this conversation, can we just have like, if what was talked about, let's just say was 3,500. And we just said, okay, so we'll check up to like 10,000.
It's not in the ordinance. I mean, like,
Right.
it wouldn't be embedded in the ordinance.
No,
It's basically, that's part of the budgeting process and.
Right, is there language to it?
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And any further comments or discussion?
I was just wondering. If that was in-
Seeing none, I will ask for a roll call vote.
Mr. Burnett,
Aye.
Mr. Camacho,
Aye.
Mr. Goldstein,
Yes.
Ms. Najolski Eichner,
Aye.
Ms. Ayers,
Nay.
Mr. Uvelman,
Aye.
Ms. Revelous,
Abstaining. Abstaining.
Ms. Young,
Yes.
Ms. McMurr,
No.
Mr. Meek,
No.
Ms. Shanahan,
Yes.
Mr. Frere,
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Passes.
We have 8 yeses and 1, 2, 3 nays and 1 abstention.
Okay, so we have 8 yeses, 3 nos, and 1 abstention. The motion carries. Next item on the agenda, Ms. Shanahan, item 7D2.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, Mr. Hoopleman, did you get Mr. Hoopleman's vote?
Yes.
Okay, good, great. So the next item on the agenda is the affordable housing ordinance, and I wanted to first of all, just say how much work went into this work, and Ms. Ayers and Ms. McMurray will be discussing it because they did the lion's share of the work. I'm sorry, I was looking at you, but I really need Ms. Najelski. I know, sorry, a little distracted for a moment there. This was excellent work that was begun in a committee with Mr. Burnett and then moved on to a committee chaired by Ms. Ayers and Ms. Najelski. So I'll pass that for them to discuss the ordinance and also, manage the vote.
Thank you, Ms. Shanahan, and I will speak briefly about the details of this and then turn it over to Ms. Ayers to talk about the broader thinking that the ad hoc housing committee that she chaired really did to sort of guide this work. But this ordinance is intended to allow the city to expend the funds that we receive under the workforce housing zoning regulations. So the city has received over the last few years about $1.2 million from developers to facilitate the construction of affordable housing in the city. So this ordinance is designed to allow us to expend those funds and to do so in a way that is strategic and that is driven by the needs of the city's residents who live in affordable housing for the ways that we choose to construct additional affordable housing here. So just a few things to note about this ordinance. What it primarily does is establish an affordable housing account committee to work with planning and zoning in the Department of Community Services to develop a application process for the use of these funds. It limits the use of these funds, again, specifically to the construction of affordable units or the renovation and maintenance of existing units. And the committee was very clear that the goal of this really is the hard costs of development, so that there is something tangible. This is creating spaces that people can live in. That committee will, again, as I said, work with planning and zoning and the community services to develop an application criteria, make sure that the application criteria for any given year are specific to the needs in Norwalk of that year. And again, that means that these guidelines may change year to year. In fact, they're required to be revisited every 3 years, so that, again, this is not a static program. This is an opportunity to fill and meet needs within the city. And again, it's, could be used for a number of purposes. One very likely option is that it could be used to be matching funds. So if the city is eligible for a state grant, but that state grant requires us to pay 10 or 20% of the costs, this would be a way that we would have the funds on hand to make sure that we can sort of maximize our leverage with other funding sources. And this committee will provide a report to the council every year to sort of allow us to track the use of these funds. The only other note that I wanted to make, because this is a question that people have raised, we are defining affordable housing in this ordinance at 60% of the state of Connecticut median income. And so the goal here really is to focus on our residents who, although many of our residents are struggling at many income levels to find affordable housing, the committee chose to focus on those residents who are currently having the hardest time finding sufficient affordable housing in the city. And our hope really is that in focusing our resources on that area, we will be able to have the greatest impact. So Ms. Ayers, I want to turn over to you to speak about this work.
Thank you. Affordable housing plays a critical role in growing municipalities for several reasons. Firstly, it ensures that residents with varying income levels can access safe and decent housing options, promoting inclusivity and social equality. By promoting affordable housing, the municipality fosters a diverse and vibrant community. Secondly, affordable housing contributes to the economic stability and growth. It enables individual families to allocate more of their income towards other essential needs and investments, boosting local spending and supporting local businesses. Moreover, it attracts and retains a diverse workforce, which is vital for sustaining development of a municipality. Thirdly, affordable housing helps address homelessness and reduces the strain on social services. When individuals have access to stable housing, it improves their overall well-being, enhances educational opportunities, and promotes better health outcomes. This in turn reduces the burden on emergency services and healthcare systems. Lastly, affordable housing supports sustainable urban development. By providing housing options closer to places of work, it reduces commute times and traffic congestion, leading to improved environmental conditions and reduced carbon emissions. Overall, affordable housing is essential in a growing municipality as it fosters social cohesion, drives economic prosperity, addresses homelessness, and promotes sustainable development. As the chair of the Ad Hoc Sustainable Committee, I would like to thank the entire committee for their support and work on this document, particularly Councilperson Nora. This ordinance places the city on the right side of justice and human services. Our desire to make Norwalk more affordable for all residents should not only rest in the fact that we want a greener, beautiful community, but it should also foster that we want a livable community for all people. Affordable housing in this ordinance is the beginning. It is not a quick fix. It is not a Band-Aid, but it is a process that we all need to chime in. We also must understand that affordable housing needs to be diverse housing. We need to speak more about home ownership. We need to speak more about tiny homes. We need to speak more about issues that plague people on a daily basis. I do not want any resident to ever think or ever question, should they stay in Norwalk or can they afford Norwalk? By starting this process, we have begun to eliminate those questions for many families. We will be participating, or the city is currently participating in surveys to understand really what our housing survey is and what it looks like. I encourage all community stakeholders and constituents to participate in those public hearings and make your voices heard. I think, again, the committee for this work, but would like to caution this council and the council to come that this work has just started and we have a ways to go. Thank you.
Further discussion?
Um,
Mr. Meek.
Thank you, Mayor. I pulled this off consent because I'm going to vote against it, but first, if I could take about 45 seconds to congratulate the victors on the election. I wish you well in executing oversight of our government for the next 2 years. I want to thank those who served in the past term and who are not continuing. Diana, you have a great pulse on District B. I appreciate your advice everywhere. David, after you pass the bar, please don't sue me. Heidi Alterman, who's not here, thank you for what you did to get Cranberry School built and everything. Camacho, I can't believe you're actually not involved anymore, but good luck in any case. And Kaidi is doing a victory lap somewhere. Back to this ordinance. I think it's government overreach. We have Norwalk Housing Authority. We have a Fair Rent Commission. What are these missions failing to do that we need to do more and more and more? I'm against this ordinance because, one, it doesn't really address the problem, and it doesn't really address the problems that would underlie a slush fund like this that could be abused by future powers of government. There's no income definition, no deed restrictions, no phase outs, any other mention of basic tenets of progressive taxation measures are in this. It's a framework to do something down the road, and I don't know that it addresses the future needs of the city well. I would prefer that we push this back to NHA, Fair Rent Commission. Where are we failing? Where are we missing? Let them pick up the ball. Don't create another department with more overhead, more people. Sooner or later, someone's going to say, I need another administrator to run this fund. You know, we're paying over $1 million a year right now for people to manage our money. I guarantee you they're not going to do this fund out of the goodness of their own heart. It's going to be more money. That's more money taken out of the taxpayer's pocket. And if we really want to look at what makes housing unaffordable, it's the fact that we're subsidizing it way too much. And when you put way too much money in it, the cost goes up. And this is basic economics. And until we learn this lesson, we're going to fail our constituents and our residents more and more. And we're going to make housing more expensive, more regulations, more funds like this, more everything. It's not helping the situation. The fair markets will do a lot better job than what we can do here. They're more reactive to the situations on the ground, and we are not. It'll take us a year or two to catch up, and that's why I'm voting no. Thank you, everyone, and appreciate your time on this council.
Thank you, Mr. Meek. Any further comment or discussion? Ms. Najolski-Eichner? Oh, Ms. Ayers.
I normally do not address people directly because that's just not what I normally do. But Councilperson Meek, I have to say this to you. You are amazing in a bad way. You just stated NAWA public housing and fair rent. You don't even know what those things do to say NAWA public housing and fair rent. And then you went on to say the fair market will fix itself. Well, if that was true, we wouldn't have NAWA public housing and a fair rent commission. You talk out the both sides of your mouth, and it is nauseating. This fund is not to create another department. This ordinance, excuse me, is not to create another department. This ordinance is not a slush fund. You're really good at it. I have to give you kudos. You're really good at putting vocabulary out there for people who do not do their own research to pick up and run around the corner with. But let me help you out, my dear sir.
Well,
Let me help you out. I'm being very civil.
Let's be civil.
Let me help you out, my dear sir. There are people who have invested in this community in more ways than you could even imagine that want to stay here. But because of the market rate, because they do not have the upper hand that some people have, they cannot stay here. We as a city cannot turn a blind eye to those people. And to say that we already have mechanisms to address this fund, if we had the mechanisms, we would not have made an ad hoc committee, nor would we have made an ordinance. And I also want to put this out into the atmosphere. You did not attend any of those meetings, but you take the opportunity tonight to come to this table and say, shame on us. If it really was shame on us, and if you really knew that there was a better way to do this, that work was done in committee, and you made a conscious decision not to join the committee. Farewell, my dear friend. I wish you well in all that you do, but know that there are people that want to stay in this community, that have invested generations in this community, and need a break that the fair market rent or the fair market does not give them. And you say stuff about NAWA housing. I'm gonna leave it alone because then I'm going negative. I really want you to understand that we are not trying to make another department. We are trying to be good stewards of what we have by giving the money that has been collected in this trust out in a responsible manner. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Further discussion? Ms. Najolski.
Let him respond.
Just to,
I'm not allowed to respond to that.
You can respond.
In a moment, you've had a comment and Nicole.
Thank you.
In a moment.
just very quickly to follow up, I did want to clarify a couple of things about this ordinance. As Ms. Ayers stated, so the Norwalk Housing Authority and the Norwalk Redevelopment Agency are both potential recipients of these funds. They were deliberately not included on the committee so that there would be no conflict of interest if they were to seek these funds. So a lot of what we are hoping to do here is to have the flexibility to work with our existing agencies when they have an opportunity and need additional funds to get them over the top. Again, as happens frequently, I mentioned, there are matching opportunities or grant opportunities that require a city match. If the city has not allocated funds for that, we might miss the grant opportunity because we don't have a pot of money that we can draw from. Similarly, if the Norwalk Housing Authority or the redevelopment agency sees an opportunity to create more affordable housing, they need to have a place to come to the city to say, we would like to use those funds. So this is funding that has already been collected. It's funding that has been in the zoning regulations for a number of years, but we've had no effective mechanism for getting it out in a fair, accountable way. So this ordinance creates that fair and accountable way that we can get input in, and can get these funds that, again, are already being collected. This is a process that is already in place, but we're looking for a way to do so. And the intent very much is to leverage our existing organizations to be able to get those funds out. And again, one more thing to clarify, these are funds that are for construction. So these are not funds that are usable to provide housing assistance directly to individuals. They are for construction costs. So the Fair Housing Commission really is not the place to address these kind of issues. This really is a much more of a specialized kind of area of conversation. And that's why this committee was set up to specifically address the needs in that area.
Mr. Meek, I believe.
Yeah, I appreciate Ms. Eichner's clarifications on that. I did read all the minutes from the meetings, regardless of what I went to. Again, you're creating another layer of government, which doesn't excuse the failures of or lack of commitment or achievement of other agencies. We're creating another layer. That's what you're doing here. It's not about shortchanging people who've paid into this community, worked hard, deserve whatever. It's just you're creating more government to create what government, or to remedy what government couldn't accomplish in the first place. Keep it up. Maybe it works. I don't think it does. Thank you.
Further discussion or comment? Mr. Revolus.
This is not toward the ordinance because I understand what the ordinance is and what it's for. I'm just stating this because it's my last go around. I just really, really, really wish, and especially in a place like Connecticut, that we are like the pebble to a pond that can create ripples for the nation. And I think what throws me or some people off is just the rhetoric words of affordable housing. Affordable housing is not affordable. And when you go into places and spaces like housing or whatever, you make a dime, they ask you for $1. So again, I'm going to ask that for our people who are still here, Nora, we've talked about this, whatever, ownership when it comes to home and when it comes to business is what's going to sustain our community. And it can look in so many different ways, whether it be the tiny homes, whether it be condos, whether it be townhouses, however, but the way we're pushing units instead of something that we can then pass down to, like, I would love to see my children here and raise here and grow up here and raise their family here in our house, in our home. You know what I mean? I can't pass down my apartment. That's not what this is about. I'm for what this is about. I'm just stating this because it's my last hurrah, but it's not the hurrah that I want to end here. Do not lose ownership for this tagline of affordable housing because nothing about it is affordable. And that's all I want to say.
Further comment or discussion?
I do have a question. Is there some flexibility? If we come back and we can make some adjustments to this ordinance.
I mean, we can always.
can always do that.
ordinances. Yep, and I think, yep, sure, and again, I think that the design of the committee is specifically to allow for flexibility year to year as needs might shift or opportunities arise.
Mr. Meek, you still have your hand up, is that?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mayor. I was remiss in my last missive for leaving this council. I see Tom sitting there in the audience. I just want to let him know he's thanked, but he's not overtime eligible, so. Have a good night, Tom.
All right, seeing no further comment or discussion, all in favor,
Sometimes I do.
opposed? Abstentions?
Abstention.
One abstention, Mr. Hooverman, one opposed, Mr. Meek. Yeah. Seeing no other business before the committee, Ms. Revelous for the last time,
Motion to adjourn.
all in favor?
Good night,
We're
all.
adjourned at 9:46. Thank you.